Good evening, Nora Natish. How are you doing this evening?
I'm great. How are you? See?
I'm good. Thank you for coming on Sports Talk with C.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of
I'm so
course.
excited.
Yay. Of course, I had to, find out why my good sis loves uh football the way she does. But we're gonna start at the very beginning. So just tell us where you're from and a little bit about who you are.
Okay. So my name is Nora Lewis, but I go by Nora Natish. I am from New York. I am a New York girl born and raised. I ended up moving to Louisiana when I was 18 to go to school. I went to Xavier University of Louisiana, HBCU in the house. And
Hey.
hey, girl. Then I moved to Washington, D.C.,
Okay,
where
so
sorry.
no, go ahead.
Oh, moved to Washington, D.C., where I started my professional career. I work at a lobbying firm on my 9 to 5. But as you guys have probably know by now, I'm also with the MTMV Sports Podcast Network. Should I start my sports career or just in general who I am?
Just in general, and then we'll get into
Oh,
your
okay, okay,
sports
okay, okay.
career. Yep.
Yeah, so I am a philanthropist. I am an author. I'm a mentor. I am a business consultant and a business brander. So I work on branding people and businesses. I also have written some things, got some things published, been a scholar, been the kid that went through all the school stuff, have an MBA and a master's in law. So very smart and very on my feet.
I know
And I
that's
love
right.
me some sports. Thank you.
So, where did it all begin in the sports world? Because I know I heard you talk about how much you wanted to play tennis and how, like, other sports that you played. So, where did the love for sports come from in general?
The love for sports, to play sports, came from just being very young and having brothers. My brothers played football. My oldest brother played basketball, so I want to do something too. If you guys know me, I don't play basketball. I am horrible. Like no hand-eye coordination whatsoever. Like I can give you one good layup. I can hit the paint hard with that layup. That's all she can do. I can dribble really cool, but it doesn't give like you guys think it gives. So I couldn't play basketball. I did play football, wide receiver for a little bit, but I don't
Ooh.
like pain. So when I got hit, that was it. And I became that competitive cheerleader for several years after that. And I played soccer, I played field hockey, ice hockey, and I also ran track. And sorry, and played
Wow.
tennis. Forgot
You
tennis.
was you was an athletic kid. I just did cheerleading. I was not doing
Woo, come
anything
on,
else.
cheerleaders in the house.
Yeah, come on. We're
Woo.
athletes too. I love
Yep.
me some
Oh, heck
cheerleading,
yeah.
cheerleading, but that is about it. So now you have the V report and explain what the V report is and where you would like to see the V report.
Yeah, so the V Report is my podcast, which has now entered the YouTube world, which I never thought in a billion years it would. But it's a podcast where I talk about sports from a female perspective. I talk about football and basketball, the two sports that I personally love, and the two sports that I focus a lot of my attention into. On the V Report, I cover men's and women's basketball, and I also cover football totally. And then also I go to like a few segments where I talk about New York sports because again, I'm a New York girl. So you'll hear things about the Rangers or the Yankees, but again, I can only talk about those teams. I my podcast actually got pretty popular during the pandemic because covering Korean football, the KBO. And I actually was reached out, people from that organization reached out to me and said, thank you for covering our games. Because if you guys remember the beginning of the pandemic, there was nothing. And I just launched my podcast and I'm a person that's really big on consistency. So me stopping because the world stopped was not what I could do. So I would wake up at 2 in the morning, watch Korean baseball. Yeah. And it was funny because you see like cartoon characters, like cutouts in the stands. I'm just sitting here like, this is goofy, but it was very interesting. And it was cool to see sports that I have never even focused on. I never even thought the Koreans had a baseball league. I was like,
Right. And still
the
in awe.
KBO. I'm telling you, when I was talking, like those that listen to my show know I can't pronounce anything correct. So if you have a name that is just not one syllable, it's gonna get kind of dicey. So some of them names from them teams, I was just I think it was like one was the Kemawa. I remember them. I was like, I know I'm saying that wrong.
Listen, when the commentators say their name, I'm like, oh, that's how you say it. Great. And then I write it in a way that I know I'm going to remember to say it right. So, because I suck at names too.
Well, see, you would correct me 1,000 times on some of these WNBA players' names. I'm sitting here like, okay, I can't tell you, I can't say Sabrina's last name, save my life. I said, Sabrina on Liberty, you know who you are, baby. You know who you are. So I'm not say your last, you know who you are. I can't say you.
And that's
You know,
cool.
girl, come on. That's what we do on the
So,
V Report. It's a fun podcast where I just bring a calming energy. When I first started, I was very similar to you. I had a lot of interviews. Because again, we were all at home. So I did bring a bunch of I wanted to bring a platform where anybody can come on. I had football players on, had this lovely woman that was trying to get into the WNBA, but she played overseas. So she came on my show, and I had different college players come on my show. It was just I wanted to bring an atmosphere where you can feel comfortable, like similar to what you do as well. Feel comfortable and be able to tell your story and have someone listen to it.
what I want to know, what admires me the most of your show is not only do you come on there and like share when you're down, when you're having a rough day, but you know your football. What? Like you know how I know my basketball, you know your football.
Yes.
And that is what really draws me into, because it's not the average way that it's broken down on the NFL network, or we hear the ladies on the sideline breaking it down during halftime or asking questions. So where does that like love for football come from, where where you can speak about who's going to win these games or who's the player for this game, or where does that come from?
So my brothers, they played football growing up. They all played. I just thought the sport was very interesting. I love a good contact sport. So it was just like, I just thought it was like, dang, I want to play. And when I got to play, I was like, I loved it. I loved being a wide receiver. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I loved it. I love talking smack. I love catching the ball in your face and dissing you, and then also be able to use my dancer skills to make sure I don't go out of bounds. And these young boys are like, what the heck is this? Like, they don't want to hit me, and some do, and I'm just like, you can't catch me though. So it's just like,
Because you got that
like
track
that's where
skills.
it started. No track skills. Okay, the track and the dance skills come together. So it all started there. And being able to like be around my dad and watch it, like watching games with him, and because I was like, he loves sports. So I was like, okay, if I want quality dad time, I'm gonna, besides when I want to watch the Little Mermaid and them, I gotta make sure I can watch sports with him. So I would definitely go downstairs and watch sports with him, or go wherever he's at and just be up under him. And my brothers, even to this day, my brothers, I'm always like, sit down and watch it. But at this point, I like to look at it a different lens besides of a fan's lens, like a lens of analytical side, how you can improve for the next game. So that started also, I guess you could say that was developed when I was in college, because at that point I knew I wanted to work in the sports realm. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I just knew I wanted to do it. At the time, I was like, I want to be a sports attorney for the NFL. That would have never let me see any of the action on the field. So I was just like, well, hey, I'll just be in the building. And then when sorry, that was not your question. So
No, continue.
You sure? Because I don't want to go into
continue. Yes.
So after college, and I didn't go straight into law school, I went into writing, because I did get my minor in English and business. So I started writing for several different online websites about football. My first website was the Sports Forward, where I covered the retirement of Victor Cruz. That was my biggest article. It did stupid numbers. I was very excited about it, because I was shaking the fact that I have a sports article published. Like I have, like academic papers published and research published, but that was all cool. Like, that's cool, but like, that's not what I wanted to do. So having my first sports article published, especially on my team and one of my favorite wide receivers, that was a big moment for me. And I hope, well, maybe in the atmosphere, he saw the article and just was like, oh, another one about me. I'll be like, that's me. That was me.
Yes.
So that popularity went from that to then I was starting to cover the NBA. The NBA, I got the cover on the Sports Forward, and I also got the cover on the Basketball Herald. And then from there, I started writing on 15 different websites, just football and basketball, but mostly football at the time. I did end up on Beyond Women's Sports, which is where I got to cover the Liberty, New York Liberty, because that's my home team. And that's how I started. They started to grow from there. Everything started rooting. And this all started because of a Twitter conversation.
Wow.
I personally thought that the Chiefs defense was piss poor, and I called it out on Twitter, and some random Randy was up in there just trying to argue with me. I was like, I understand you're a Chiefs fan. Trust me. I get it. Your fandom is going to definitely cloud your judgment. But someone looking from an analytical lens of the time, the Chiefs are giving up so many points that you have, like, I think this is right when Pat Mahomes got there. Like, he has to put up 41 points. You shouldn't, your quarterback should have to work that hard if the defense is doing what it's supposed to do. And this guy was just like, you're a stupid girl, whatever. And this guy named Josh Moselle. I tell every time I tell my story, I say Josh Moselle is the guy who founded me in sports. Like, that's the guy who said, hey, you want to write for Airbus Sports Network? Do you want to help cover the BL liaison for, what was that? The league that folded. Oh man, the AAF, the American something football league, like, but AAF was what it was. And he's like, you want to do that? And I was just like, sure. And that from there, that's where everything grew.
Wow. Well, hey, that's how we got to know each other on Twitter. So you know what? There's great things on Twitter. So when you have your V Report, you have your podcast. What would you say for anyone starting a podcast? How do you work through what is your toughest struggle? So one, what is your toughest struggle with the podcast, and what are some ways that you can work through, especially being a woman talking about sports?
That's a beautiful question, and I think it's necessary because it's hard being a woman in the sports industry when you're not in media. Like, you're not on camera, you're not doing the moderating, you're not the person that just leads the question. When you're the person that the entire show is based around, it is difficult because you're trying to capture an audience that is more, let's be honest, is more male focused. The men, they want to hear men talk about football. They want to hear Greeny. They want to hear Stephen A. They want to hear Max Kellerman. I don't care what they say. I love Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman says, all right, they want to see, they want to hear them. However, we have voices too, and we have our own takes on it. So that's why my podcast was a little bit different, because I'm not trying to be any of those men. I'm not even trying to be Joy. I'm not trying to be Molly Curum. I'm not trying to be any of those people. I'm just trying to be myself and talk about it from my lens. So my biggest hurdle, because I'm a very goal-oriented person, so I said, I want this amount of people listening every single week. And when I saw there were some weeks when things were high, some weeks things were low, I was getting very frustrated because, again, I'm a perfectionist. So that doesn't help when you have in this industry, really. But what helped me was I stopped looking at the listenership. I stopped looking at who's listening, and I started thinking who was listening. That was something huge for me, because at first, if anybody who first listened to my first podcast episode, it was horrible. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to shade the person, my guest. He took over the interview. I clearly didn't care. It was a mess. It just sounded bad. It just was like all I could do is put my hands up, like, oh, shame. So I had to take some time to learn from that situation. And also, I stopped doing something that I know a lot of people do. They plan out their episodes. I don't. I literally go off the dome because I'm more authentic that way. So again, like, you listening to a podcast or you watching one, you want somebody animated. Like, I watched he's toxic now, but I watched Joe Budden podcast when it first came out, when they had the dream team. And I was like, no shade Joe Budden, but it is what it is. But like, he used to have the dream team where they just literally would talk. They would just have like friend to friend conversations. And that's how I brought in even my guests. I would give them like, okay, these are 5 questions, but we're probably going to talk more about like, what's your favorite color? Like, what you like to do? Like, what's up after football or after basketball or whatever. So that's how, when I started doing that and started being more myself and stopped trying to be so corporate about podcasting, it just took over and did its own thing. So
That's different.
I would recommend to any new podcaster, be yourself and enjoy it. Like, don't think too much about, I need that one episode and then I'm on the shade room in the good way. Because first of all,
Right.
are you ever really on the shade room in the good
In
way?
a good way.
So don't think that way. Think more of like, okay, I'm having another great episode with my friends or by myself talking about something I'm passionate about.
Oh, that's definitely a dope way to listen to it. I appreciate that. That's some advice that I could use, especially during certain games or certain weeks. You're like, it has to be great. This has to be a certain way. That's why I don't come with any questions anymore. We just talk. You speak about, on several conversations we have, the draft, the path to the draft. Excuse me, butchering your name. So explain that to our listeners, what that is and where would you like to see the path to the draft?
Yes. So those are your listeners that do watch NFL Network, especially around, I would say, end of March, early April, there's a program called Path to the Draft where people follow different players that they have come from various beginnings, and they're really following their path to draft day. Most of these players, are going to get drafted. Like, they usually, I think they usually focus on like 4 or 5 that we're going to get drafted, and you see like some of them have very humble beginnings. I am a sucker for a good story. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, when I see this person go from such pain or such struggle and then get to see them cross that stage and hug the commissioner, it's a really big moment for me. I feel like, wow, like, I know I am just this auntie over in the corner. You don't know, but I'm proud of you, young man. I'm proud of you, young lady. Like, because you saw where you once was, and you saw the progression you put into it. That's why personally I like athletes. I love athletes because you put your blood, sweat, and tears into one craft that you were like, I'm banking everything on this. And I believe in, when you're trying to make something happen, like something that no one can see coming, is because you put all your blood, sweat, and tears in it. You poured everything and you don't quit. And the athletes that I personally know, they've torn ACLs, they've broken arms, they've broken legs, and it did change how they performed. But they said, I'm not quitting. I'm just going to change how I produce. If my leg is bending this way, I'm putting that brace on it so I can stay straight, so I can run that 40 time. Or if my jumper is not, it's not wet no more, they're going to definitely put that arm sleeve on and bring that elbow in and get that shot up there. So it's just, you see all that while they're going through the path of the draft. So that's what the show is about. And it's another show called Agent I think they cut that show, but it was a show called Agent, where you see agents go get players from different D1 schools. And those are things that I'm very interested in, because I can lead. I'll give my leading question. Like, I would say that that's something I want to do. Like, I want to be somebody that can cover someone's journey to the pros, because I think it's important to see who this kid really is. Because again, they're not technically children. They are 21, 22, as well as in basketball, 19, 20, 21. Right. So they're more kids. But like, I would say, like, they all come from something. All those AAU leagues, all of those Pop Warner games, all those different things. You saw this child from little to now. Look, the stuff that took place, So that's what all that's Path to Draft and Path to Excellence is all about.
Ooh, I like how that sounds. No, I want to. You are, and we're gonna have, the Veport draft, Path to the Draft. If I can't get these 2 words normal, I keep doing it backwards, but I got it.
You got it.
So if you could describe your journey in one word, thus far, what would it be?
I'm going to take this. So, Steve Harvey, if you're listening, which you will probably be one day, this is quoted from you, under construction.
Ooh, why do you say that?
Because it's not a straight road. It's not narrow. It's just always, there's a bump here, a stick here, a pothole there, but it's always under construction because I'm not done with my journey yet. So my path's still available and open to me.
Oh, I like that. Oh, go ahead, good sis. I definitely do like that. Also, you experienced your 100th episode.
Yes.
Can you just explain to the amount of work put in to produce 100 episodes and just the joy you felt celebrating that episode?
That episode was very big to me because when I started my podcast, I was in a very happy world. Like, I was in a happy life. My, weight went down. The money is in the hands. Family's good. Everybody's healthy. Everything's happy. When I got to my 100th episode, it was very emotional because I had a lot take place from the first episode with Jeremiah Spicer. Shout out to you, Jeremiah. All the way to the 100th episode where I had to reflect on, wow, I lost so many important people. We went through a pandemic where you didn't know when it was going to end. You didn't know if you were going to live or die. So it was like a bunch of stuff that took place during that time. Relationships ended. Those that knew me at the beginning, they were like, oh, she's happy. Oh, no, never mind. She ain't in the relationship no more. I had a whole episode where somebody sent me a message saying, I'm praying for you because I hear it in your voice. You're in pain. I said, yeah, daggone skip. Yep. You're right. I am in pain in this episode, but I'm going to give it out to you because I believe in that consistency. But that day was huge to me because I missed like maybe, I would say 4 weeks total of recording and editing. And that was because again, if you know me, I get sick a lot. Well, if you listen to my show, you know I get sick a lot. So it's like, I got sick here. I had bronchitis, so I couldn't talk. And if all of y'all want to hear somebody try to talk with bronchitis, it's not cute on the mic. So I was like, well, this is gonna be that week. We're gonna skip this one. But it was a lot of work and trying to be consistent, trying to get it out at 12 o'clock, which you listen to my show. It ain't happening every single Wednesday. And it was hard, but that 100th episode felt so good to reflect on all that. And I would tell again to podcasters that really are about showing their stuff, saying their stories and bringing people together and just expressing themselves. That consistency is so important. That's the only way you'll keep your audience. If you are constantly changing, and well, you should change as a person, but you can't change your time. You can't be switching your days because people be like, yo, I'm sitting here waiting for a sports talk with C. She come out on Monday. Sis coming out on Thursday every other week. What's going on? Like, that wouldn't be cool. Like, but you are really good at that too, coming out on Mondays, period. Start your week off like that. Sorry, Sundays. Start my week off like that. But yeah, so it wouldn't be like I wouldn't have gotten there if I kept being trifling and procrastinating. But my 100th episode celebration was so much fun. Very glitz and glam. Like I told everybody, it's going to be very glitz and glam.
That's that fashionista.
Exactly. Because that's actually the funny thing is that's what podcast will be about. Fashion and football. It was the dumbest thing. It was like F for an F, fashion for a football. That's what the name. That's the original name of my podcast.
When you're thinking of the names, right?
It's
a battle. It's a battle.
That's why I said during my speech, I was like, I'm so happy I did not try to launch F4F on the MTMV Sports Network. Because people be like, what podcast is this? I'd be like, shoot the messenger. It's football and fashion. So,
hey, there's ways we can make it work. Some of these rap songs that be coming out. So listen,
please, okay.
If there's ways to make it work. So if people want to follow you, talk to you, hear you, how would they do so?
So if you want to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Nora, Nora _Natish, Natish. And that is the main outlets I use for sports, media, and things like that. Now, for my other things I do, you can definitely click on those links that are connected to them. If you want to know more about my foundation works and my writings, they're all on those areas. So you can click the links in there right there.
She's a guy. She could write. She writes very well. So if you need some editing, reach out to my girl for a small fee. She got you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Make sure you say small fee. The fee is in there.
She got you. All right. Thank you, Nora, for coming on my show, Sports Talk with C. And, listeners, make sure you follow, tune in every week, and get you some good V report.
Thank you.